It's a home defense, fellas. It's the best way to go. It's a HDB 68. Best one of them all. Best one of them all. Is it going to be protect your home, fellas? Hi everybody, welcome back for another video. Woe is me, life is not fair. I just feel so deprived that I can't have access to every possible self-defense tool. So poor me, but I have to now force myself to live in an echo chamber, find a safe space where I don't have to encounter people who actually talk about the full spectrum of self-defense options. If that's you, you have to really look at yourself and consider, am I being fair to myself? Is it necessary for me to just shut out all conversation about firearms if I'm unable to have a firearm? I had a very strange interaction this week on Facebook with someone who just was intent on defending their position that home defense, using a less lethal, using a 30 joule less lethal and shooting 50 shots from a high capacity, that they were absolutely convinced, at least in their mind, that they could defend their home against anybody with anything. And, they dare you. I dare you to come to my home. I will put you down with this. And I just don't think that this type of delusional thinking is very healthy, and I think it's folks who are just not being realistic about what less lethals can do. I love less lethals. They have their application. They're really great for outside the home. For if we can get them small enough, we can carry them. We can use them to defend and deter and distract and to get away. But inside the home, what really stimulated this conversation was someone said, well, if my door gets kicked in, I'm going to pull my less lethal launcher and defend my life. And my response was that if someone is kicking in the door of your home, that's not the right tool to be choosing. And that is a factual statement. That is not biased. If you choose to argue the alternative, then you are coming at it with a bias, because of your perspective. Maybe you live in a country where a firearm is absolutely not allowed. You don't have castle doctrine. You don't have the ability to defend yourself. So it's fair, but you should acknowledge that, yes, well, if I had a firearm and I could use my firearm, I would definitely be better equipped to fight a home invader than having to use my air-powered less lethal that may sit on a wall. I don't care if you've got 15 of them, and they're all up on a wall. They need to be lubed regularly. They need to be shot regularly. They need to be maintained. You may pull one off that's full of dust. It may not fire. It may not be reliable. How many of those are you actually having ready at any point in time? I'm not sure. I don't care how much power your less lethal has. It's a suboptimal situation to try to rely on one. So just acknowledge that fact. When we have conversations in groups, and Facebook is notorious for groups that form these insulated, insecure echo chambers where they absolutely don't want anyone to talk about firearms. And they use the excuse that AI might shut us down because we can't talk about firearms on Facebook. That's absolutely not true. I'm in firearm groups. I'm in Glock groups. They talk about firearms. They talk about modifications. They talk about uses. They talk about self-defense. The entire group is talking about firearms, folks. And then you get in a less lethal group and the person says, oh, you don't talk about firearms. No, they're going to shut us down. They're going to shut us down. You can't do that. That's off limits. That's absolutely censorship. And it's the person who's running the group is wanting to have some level of control. It's a person who has a vested interest in selling less lethal products or making sure that less lethal stays on top of mind. And it's a person that has a interest in suppression of alternative methods of self-defense. They just do not want you talking about it. They want to create a safe space for restricted individuals from other countries or felons or anyone else who can't own a firearm or doesn't, or it's just not practical. They want those people to come in there, but they cannot be bothered by someone pointing out the weaknesses and the limitations. I think you're not serving the community well if you're not talking about everything in the right context and perspective. And I don't have to live my life catering to the insecurities of everyone. I don't need to know your pronouns. I don't need to know whether you're a legal firearm owner or not. I just want to have honest conversations where the information goes back and forth. I don't need to be bullied by administrators of these groups. Sure, the groups have the ability to pick and choose how they run things, but I think it reflects really badly when they censor conversation that is open and honest and transparent about what is good and what is bad and what is strong and what is weak, capacity, size. When people make false claims about how they can carry large, bulky launchers and they put on a shirt that is triple size, the seams of the shirt goes down to about right here, and it's like a balloon. And then they say, well, look, you can't see my launcher. But yeah, you're wearing a highly oversized shirt and you're dressed like you're going to a football game in the middle of January. That's not real EDC. So these are pet peeves of mine, and I'm really sort of frustrated with the fact that you cannot communicate with these folks in these Facebook groups without, they treat you like you're a heretic. How dare you, say that there are limitations to these less lethal launchers? How dare you mention the F word? It's really weird because I can go into a firearm group, I can mention less lethals and pepper spray, and there'll be a certain percentage of people who say, yeah, sure, you should do that. And there'll be a certain percentage of people who will try to laugh you out of the room. But at the end of the day, you're still welcome in the group. They acknowledge you have an opinion about less lethals, and then they get on to their discussions. You go into a less lethal group, and inversely, you mention a firearm, and somebody inevitably is going to try to kick you out of the group or ban you or report you to the administrator because you use the F word. It's really nonsensical, and I just don't quite understand the mentality. Part of it is the buy-sell trade. It's just inherent in the less lethal groups, and then that's not something that you're going to get in a firearm group because it is absolutely illegal. But in the less lethal groups, there's always this ulterior motive, this internal motivation that I'm going to buy, sell, or trade. And then you've got these nuts who shoot people, who shoot each other. And they with bravado, oh, look at me, I took a 30 joule shot, I'm a big guy. Or you get an obese, large man who takes a shot of 50 joules and says, well, wow, I can take it. This kind of behavior should be intolerable. We should all be speaking out against it. There's multiple channels, well-known channels, you don't have to look hard to find them promoting the fact that they've shot someone with their less lethal. Not only did they do it, they put it on camera and they continue to just present it to you as evidence that the less lethals are powerful. First of all, anyone is willing to get shot by a less lethal. That's not very smart, and it's not very wise, and it's not very informative. And I've got a video coming up soon when I'm going to talk a little bit about this, because I think there's just so much misunderstanding about ballistics on tissues versus solid objects versus this versus that. A lot of the ballistics is like hand waving, and it's very subjective, and it's a lot of mostly overstated. And let's talk about that more in the future. But I had to get this off my chest. Facebook is a cesspool of a lot of people, very insecure people who seek out echo chambers, and then when they're not happy with what people are saying, they go out and they start their own, and they branch out, and you get all of these people talking about different aspects of less lethal, and they're all very unhappy they just come across as unhappy. I go in a firearm group, everybody's happy, they're doing their thing. Let's be more happy, let's be more pro less lethal, but let's keep it in the right context. Let's don't just make wild claims that it's good for everything and that there are no weaknesses, and we don't need to consider a knife, or we don't need to consider defending against a knife by using something more powerful than a air-powered launcher. I did a poll recently, and it was literally split between people who would use a less lethal or people who would use a firearm to defend against someone with a knife. A really nice poll, a lot of people contributed, but those two were almost dead even as being the top two choices, and it was literally 50-50, and I believe that may break down according to the people who can or cannot own a firearm, because there's really no rationale why anyone should defend against a lethal threat, someone with a knife, by using anything other than a firearm, in this theoretical argument that we're making. So I like to get your ideas. I'll continue to put out polls. I'll continue to talk about these topics. No one is ever going to shut me down on Scaredy Cat TV. We're always going to be talking about important topics that you need to think about, and we're not doing it in a biased way. There's no tools that are off limits. We're going to talk about it all here on this channel. So everybody take care. See you next time.